This is the Flow Country in the north of Scotland, and the landscape has just been awarded one of the highest accolades in biological importance in the world, that of UNESCO World Heritage status. I decided to climb to the highest point in this territory to get an overview of the place, and camp up there for a couple of nights. Although it was spectacular, it wasn't plain sailing, with some of the windiest conditions I've ever camped in, and my having to resort to the bottom of the barrel with my camping food.
My name's Feargus. This is the middle of nowhere. Alone at last. Welcome back to the middle of nowhere. I am at the foot of the highest mountain in Caithness, which is right up in the northeast of Scotland, and the mountain is called Morven. It's not particularly high. It's a Corbett in the lingo of the kind of things that people call Scottish mountains, depending on how high they are. And I've come here because recently this area, which I've just entered after a long walk in, has just been declared a UNESCO World Heritage Landscape, the first of its kind in Scotland. So that's quite a big deal. And we're just inside the boundary of what's known as the Flow Country, which is an area mostly of bogs and pools and very acidic, turfy soils, which can get really, really deep. And it's been decided that it's the finest example of this type of habitat in Europe. So I thought it's worth going and having a proper look. I have kind of had brief wanders in the Flow Country before, in previous years, before I started making YouTube videos. But getting a view of it from the top of its highest point, I thought would be a really good way to see it, to get an idea of what it looks like and of its scale. But the mountain above doesn't look like it's got any water sources, so I've just filled up 5 litres to keep me going because I intend to be up there for the next 2 nights. It's already early evening. I've got about 300 meters of ascent to go. And then I'm hoping that there's going to be somewhere reasonably flat to pitch my tent up beside what looks like a very, very cool big rocky tor up just below the summit. So I'm going to pack in my load and then start up the steep slope and see how we go. Yeah. I think this will work. It's not a lot of soil to get the pegs into, but I'll work something out. Look. There's the summit, the true summit, which I'll have a look at in a minute. I'm gonna get a jumper on. Oh, give me a sec. All right. Ooh, that's the culprit. all of my pain. Oh, what a lovely spot. Let's have a look on top of this tor. Yeah. That's all right. That is a good view. You can really see the boggy landscape stretching off into the distance there. Get a better view from the summit. But because it's soon going to be sunset and I'm really tired and hungry now, I'm going to leave the summit for the morning, even though it's only a 4-minute walk from here. I'm going to get the tent up. This is an antique. I've had this since 2014, 10 years ago. I bought them for a trip that I did to Tasmania, where I was in the bush for several weeks on my own. And I got so sick of them by the end, and I had a few left over, that I have kept on taking them on trip after trip after trip. It's been so many places. It's more well-traveled than most humans. But because I have nothing else left in the cupboard in terms of camping food, that's what I grabbed for tonight. So I don't know if it's got a sell-by date. 4th of the 12th, 2014. Okay, it's ready. I'm now going to eat a camping meal which is 10 years past its sell-by date. This is a terrible idea. Tastes okay. It's inside me. Yes, let's see how we go. I didn't have anything else in the cupboard, so I'm hoping for some sunshine in the morning. I'm not too optimistic based on the forecast, but I'd really like to get some sunrise photographs from the summit of this mountain. And actually the reason that I've planned for 2 nights is that if I don't get it tomorrow morning, then I can try again the following day and just hang out up here tomorrow. Something tells me I might end up waking up in the middle of the night to some crazy winds, but we'll see. Seems to be the story of the summer of 2024, at least from what I've been told. We've been back from our family trip to Norway for a couple of weeks, and ever since I came home it's been windy pretty much all the time, often more windy than this. It's just that because I'm up on a summit, it's particularly windy. According to the mountain weather forecast, the winds are probably hitting around 50 miles an hour. Not the most pleasant conditions to be camping in. Needless to say, with the extreme wind and the pissings of rain in the night, there was nothing to get up for in terms of the sunrise. My alarm went off, I had a quick look outside, and then I went back to sleep. I think I'm going to have some breakfast now. It's 11 o'clock, but because I didn't manage to get any sleep until about 4 a.m, that makes sense. Lovely. That's a very shapely hill. That's it. So, the summit at last. Things just cleared up all of a sudden, as you saw in my time lapse. What a wonderful overview of emptiness. It's so open and so empty. The big reason why I wanted to come up this hill is because it's far higher than anything else around here. And it's just this majestically freestanding conical mountain surrounded by all of this bog. And you can see, looking out, just how waterlogged it is. There are lochs and lochans and little ponds dotted about all over the place on the flatter bits. And those are really good breeding grounds for things like dragonflies and even some newts and stuff, despite the acidity. I've seen them in other places. In fact, in some places, the peat down here is up to 10 meters thick. And the peat is not soil as we normally think of it. The peat is mostly made up of dead plants and animals, plants for the most part, but they're not rotting. So it sucks up and contains a huge amount of carbon. The estimate, in fact, is that just in the flow country here, the bits that have been designated for World Heritage contain more carbon than all of the native woodland in the UK combined. Now that sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. Admittedly, of course, the extent of UK native woodland is well under 1% of what it would have been in prehistoric times before people started chopping things down and burning things and converting things to agriculture over millennia. But it still is a lot of carbon. But this is a wonderful overlook. Absolutely stunning. This caterpillar, once upon a time, would have been for me the holy grail. I used to keep caterpillars and raise them until they became adults when I was between 10 and 13, and for a while I was absolutely obsessed with finding them and learning about them and just watching them, basically. But this is an emperor moth caterpillar. It's a beautiful creature, and I always thought that most of the time the caterpillars are actually more beautiful than the adults. I never managed to find one of these in Wicklow in Ireland, where I grew up, and I so badly wanted to. But I've seen them quite a few times around here, and actually they're pretty common around the bog and the north of Scotland in general. I just love the little pink spots with teeny tiny little hairs sticking out of them, teeny tiny little black hairs. It's just lovely. Happily here right on the summit. Beautiful, beautiful the way the cloud just races up the mountain and then whew, over the other side. It's coming in now though. It's coming in fast. The rain can't be far behind. Whoa, look at that bubbling up over my head. It's like I don't know, convection currents in a giant cauldron. I woke up just a short while ago needing to relieve my bladder, and there was a red alert for an aurora display on my phone. The sky is wonderfully clear. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning, by the way, and I'm really tired. But there is some cloud which is stubbornly holding on to the top of this mountain. And it clears every so often, and then I get a glimpse of the green band across the horizon. It's frustrating. Maybe it'll clear up completely though. I don't think so. Anyway, let's see. Let's keep looking for a bit. If I can stay awake. Oh wow, look at that. Oh, it's actually getting brighter, I think. Oh, wow. Look at that. That is beautiful. You know, I think this is the best one that I have seen with the naked eye. You can see it dancing around a bit as the streamers move and change. Okay. I think I'm gonna call it. Been awake for the better part of an hour now, watching it, and it looks like the first impressive burst is pretty much subsided now. I don't know if there's gonna be another one. And the clouds are frustratingly present most of the time. Hopefully things will get a bit better in the next couple of hours before the sun comes up. At least it's a lot less windy than last night. One photo. I had time for one photo before the sun, which went through that really narrow gap, just disappeared again. That is landscape photography in Scotland. Doesn't look like it's coming back again anytime soon either. Just after 6 o'clock. I'm going back to bed. Teasing this weather is doing to me. Denying me my sleep. I forgot to give you all an update on how my belly is doing after eating my 10 years past its sell-by date camping meal. It's doing just fine. Just goes to show how useful, especially on non-perishable items, sell-by dates are. So don't waste food just because it's past its sell-by date. Too much food waste in the world. Well, I am now back down from the mountain. I loved it. Actually, now that I look back on it, it's a much more atmospheric mountain than I expected. And the area is brimming with wildlife. There have been the caterpillars, which I always get excited about. There's the 12-year-old in me coming back. I've seen frogs, and I just saw a toad a little while ago, chilling out under the heather. Well, actually, it went under the heather because I scared it. It was out in the open. And there's the sheep. That to me marks the edge of the wilderness. When you start passing by the sheep, the domestic animals. But watching the weather go by yesterday was also really, really lovely. Apart from the howling wind, which made things a bit noisy. And I've also seen, and I got very excited about this, hold on while I get it out of my pocket. High up on the mountain, I saw these. Whoops, well, there goes one of them. But these are enough to show you what it looks like. These are cloudberry plants. I know this because I've seen them over the last few weeks in Norway. They're typically a far northern plant that particularly grows well in the Arctic. And although it's a bit too late in the season for it, and there's no sign of them, they have these incredibly succulent, sweet berries. The flavor is lovely, but they have this strange kind of gooey consistency. But I'm really excited to see them in Scotland. I knew that you did get them in a few places in the UK, but somehow it feels quite exotic to see them here. So all that remains to be said, now that I'm on the more tedious part of this walk back to my car, is to please give the video a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe if you haven't already, and share the video or share my channel with friends if you like it, if you think they would like it. I'd really appreciate that. I'll be back soon with something else. I'm hoping for the wind to die down so that I can do some more slightly crazy stuff, which I have done on some of my other videos. So I'd recommend checking out some of my older videos, seeing some of the stuff that I've done. But in the meantime, I wish you all a lovely week or two to come. Take it easy for now.
Thank you.